بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر وسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Thank you very much, Imam C. Bishop Odeko, you have the floor, please.
O Lord God Jehovah, we ask but by Holy Spirit's power that you will descend mightily upon this commission as we seek out the truth, that you will help us to bring out the things that were not so pleasant within our society, and that in the process you will also help us to have a forgiving spirit and also a reconciliation spirit. And we pray that as the Trrc continues its sitting, that all and sundry will have one mind, one spirit, that of love, that of compassion, that of forgiveness, and that of reconciliation. And so we prayed that you will help all those who will come and testify here, that they have nothing to fear but to speak the truth, and nothing but the truth. This we ask through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much, Bishop. Council, are we ready with today's witness?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, commissioners, distinguished members of the audience. Indeed, we are ready to proceed, and I'm pleased to announce that Ms. Horeja Balagay would be leading our next witness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Council. Can we proceed and get the witness in, please?
Indeed. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, commissioners. I ask the usher to bring in the witness and administer the oath.
I, Babukar Malik Jeng,
do swear that
I'll
speak the truth,
the
whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Please take a seat. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the commission. As you know, my name is Horeja Balagay, and I will be leading your questioning on behalf of the commissioners. Thank you very much for coming all the way here to testify before the commission. A few preliminary things. There is interpretation going on into the local languages, as well as transcription. Therefore, I ask you to speak slowly and take your time to go through your testimony. I would recommend that you switch the mic on and leave it on. I will switch mine on and off. So please state your full name.
Good morning. My name is Babukar Malik Jeng.
Are you known by any other name?
In the army, I was called RSM Jeng. Outside the army, I've been called Babs Jeng.
What do the letters RSM stand for?
Regimental Sergeant Major.
When were you born?
Born 28th of March, 1963.
RSM, can you tell us a bit about your educational background? Where did you go to school and what did you study?
Please, Council, before we start, I would kindly like to ask if we can give a minute silence for my fellow soldiers who lost their life in November 11, as we are now into the second session of the TRRC, which covers the November 11. Please.
I would defer that request to Mr. Chairman. The witness would like us to observe a minute of silence. If that is fine with you, then we would proceed to do so.
Thank you very much. If we can do it for all the victims that suffered during the 22 years. So you can observe a minute of silence. Thank you very much indeed. Shall we continue?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. RSM Jeng, could you kindly take us through your educational background, including where you went to school and what you studied?
Council, before we start, I'm not very good in keeping dates, but I could go as the events happened. I did my primary school in Malfa, Halfdai, and then later to Sukuta Secondary School, after which I attended the Anglican Vocational Training Center in Farafenye, and it was there after my completion of vocational training, at our passing out ceremony, that the camp commander at Farafenye, Commander FRI Jame, was invited as a guest of honor, who spotted me out there, and then after having discussion with him, he encouraged me to go and join the Pioneers Engineering. At the time, then the army was just starting, and then we joined the first recruit for engineering for GNA, Gambia National Army.
Do you recall the date when you enlisted? If you don't, that's perfectly fine.
Yes, we were enlisted in 1st August 1993.
93?
Sorry, 83.
So RSM, I will go through your military career, and then we'll talk about your role as RSM of the Army.
Okay.
Thereafter, we will talk about the events of 21st July, 1994. We'll also address the events of 22nd July, 1994. We will talk about your victimization, and then we will conclude with your views on institutional reforms.
Thank you, ma'am.
So you joined the Gambia National Army. You enlisted on the 1st of August, 1983.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us a bit about the training that you received when you joined?
In 1983, that was when the Gambia government choose or decide that they're going to form the army, and those who were supposed to be in the infantry did their selection from Fajara barracks, and then those to be in the engineering side were selected from Farafenye. That's where the engineers based at the time. So I was one of those who were selected from Farafenye. So it was 50 from Bakau, 50 from Farafenye to make 100. And then we all report to Fajara barracks, where we went through our medical checkups, everything, and then we were later taken back to Farafenye to do our recruit training. at this time, we had a Ghanaian called George Frimpong, Sergeant Mendy, Couple Ibu Fai, Couple Moduba, who were responsible of the training. And then, whilst on training at Farafenye, at some point, the British Army training team, BAT, were invited down by the government. And then they came and then did the observation, Trrc. And then it was at this point that when they went back to prepare to come back, then we continued the training at Farafenye 6 months. And just exactly by the time we finished our 6 months training and passed out, the Casamas insurgency started. And then, because Gambia was already into this confederation with Senegal and was supposed to send troops to Senegal for the insurgency. So at the time, the Senegalese chief of defense staff came down to see for himself. So when he came, I remember one of the recommendations he made to government was, as that was the first time we had an army, very inexperienced, he would change the plan. Rather than sending us to the battlefield, he chose part of the recruits, about 47 of us, and we were taken to Senegal for training.
You told us about the 6 months training that you had at Farafenye. Can you tell us what type of training that was?
It was a basic recruit training where we have to undergo all sorts of form of military basic trainings, i.e. map reading, field craft, weapon handling, drill, regimentation, etc.
After that 6-month training, were you awarded ranks prior to deploying to Senegal or not at all?
No, not at all. It was only, we had 3 cadet officers, who was Babukar Jata, Abdoulaye Conte, and Fabakary Cissé, who were appointed cadet.
You provided a witness statement to investigators of the Trrc.
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
recall that?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe you have a copy of that statement in front of
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Now, I know you've said that you're not very good with dates,
Right.
but there are some dates that have been mentioned in the statement.
Yes.
Can I first of all ask you how you came to find out about those dates? Or were they from your memory, or are they dates that you got from somewhere else?
I know every event or incident that happened, but seeing the way councillors were grilling people who sit on the head chair, I went and do some homework, tried to find out as much as I could. We have a colleague whom I joined with the same day in the army. He was the army chief clerk. He's genius. He can tell you every date of every event, incident in the army. So I contacted him. He went through the records. I gave him the dates I was looking for, and then he provided me with those dates.
And these are dates mainly in relation to your own career promotion. Is that right?
Yes.
And just so you feel at ease, RSM, to the extent that you recall dates, please provide them. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. You can always refer to things that happen in relation to events, and that will give us sufficient clarity.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your statement, in February 1984, you went to Kaolack for an instructor's training course. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us about that training?
In February 1984, we left Gambia to Senegal for training. And this training, we didn't know what it was about until we got to Senegal. And when we got to Senegal, we were told that we're going to start a training called CAT1, Certificate Aptitude Technique Numero 1. This was like a corporal course. When we got there, first thing they did to us was that no one enters into their dormitories with civilian hairs. But we were not civilian at the time. So we were all saved and asked to go and throw our hairs about 2-3 miles away by running, crawling, till we got to the point where we were supposed to throw those hairs. We did that and then came back. From there we knew that there is a lot more ahead of us. So we embarked on the training. It was a tough one. When we were on the training, after our first, second, third month, we started running out of our stuff that we took with us to Senegal, our soap, toothbrushes, etc., etc. So at one point, we all came together, and decided that we bring everything we have and then put it at a central position. So if, like in the morning, if anybody needs to go and have bath, we go in groups. Then we will take out one soap and then we'll use it. We share it. We were sharing everything at the time. Again, for the training as well, we had a lot of problems because we were not supplied with any stationaries whatsoever. Remember, when we run out of writing materials, we were using carton boxes, split them to write our notes. And the course was in French. None of us did French, or with the little we did in our secondary schools, etc. Again, we had no dictionaries to be able to translate. After a month or two, we were lucky to have 2 young lieutenants who were attached to the training school who went out their way to get us translated dictionaries, French, English, and they devoted their private time after classes to come down and sit with us, helping us to translate our notes.
Did these tough conditions lead your group to take any action?
Yes, because what happened is it went to a point that definitely it was like a dead end. So we tried to request to see the authorities, but we were told that doesn't happen in the Senegalese military. We did all efforts, nothing happened. And then, this is where we all decided one evening that the following day, we should just sit down till they come to our aid, someone come to our aid. And what we did was, when we were going, we were issued with one very scary uniform, camouflage, combat camouflage. We all decided to be in that camouflage uniform the following morning, and then just sit in the dormitory. No one should leave the dormitory. And that's what we did. And then when it was time for us to fall in for lessons, no one went out. And then later, the camp commander himself came, and we said to him, we want to speak to Colonel Ndaunjai in the Gambia.
Who was Colonel Ndaunjai at that time?
He was the army commander, Gambia National Army. So I think the message was relayed. but we were not convinced that it was going to happen. And again, like as Gambians, we believe whoever stands in front of you with this age of your dad is your dad, uncle, your uncle. We had an instructor there, he was from Casamas. He could speak very good Mandinka, etc. We were very able to relate with him. He came and appeal with us before we all came out and even talked to the camp commander at the time. After doing so they sent us back in, and then the message was relayed to Gambia that we wanted to speak or see our commander, which happened. He came with the paymaster, who was Major Taro at the time, and then we all went, and then he spoke to us, and then we all expressed our grievances to him as to the conditions we were in and all that was happening around us. Because we needed, like when we were doing sports, we had no sport shoes, nothing absolutely. We were using our combat boots for all activities. So we explained our problems, everything to the colonel. He noted down everything and then told us that they've also brought along our wages for us, the period we were there. And this is where the problem started. At the time, our salaries was $177. We were in Senegal, and they came to pay us, and they brought dollars and not CFA. When we received the money, no sign of nothing, but after when the commander left, some of the boys decided that they had enough, especially with the training itself. They were leaving. Some of us tried to convince them that conditions will change now that the commander came and then have listened to our grievances, but we shouldn't leave because of the toughness of the training. Because I remember before we left for Senegal, we were assembled in front of the guard room in Fajara Barracks, and all the elderly people we have at the time, in the camp at the time, were giving us advice. And I remember one WO2 Sambo. He said to us, "My sons, you people are going to a foreign land. What I want you people to know that is, even in your own house, if you have another child to be brought up with your own kids, if you observe, he may feel that you're not treating him right with the others. So if you people go to Senegal, just have it at the back of your mind that every day is -1. However tough the training is, it will come to an end." For me, that keeps ringing in my head. So I said, no, I will not leave because of the toughness of the training. And the reason again for that was, after my passing out, before coming home to show my parents my achievements also, I went straight across, joined the army, did everything before coming home to tell them that I've joined the army. So I would not leave because of the toughness of the training.
So in fact, that was the first protest, in a way.
In the Gambia National Army.
In the
yes.
Gambia National Army. Just a little over 6 months after inception, is that
Yes.
correct? So after that, how long did you stay for that training in Kaolack?
We did the first phase, which was over 6 months. On completion of the training, we came back and was expecting that they're going to give us our corporal ranks. It didn't happen, and we were given, I think, a one week holiday. Just even before the 1 week finishes, we were called back and then 15 of us were taken back to Senegal to go and do the second phase, which was CAT 2. The first phase was CAT 1, Certificate Aptitude Technique number 1, and then the second phase was Certificate Aptitude Technique number 2.
So after the training in Kaolack, you returned to the Gambia. At the time, did you participate in any other training upon your return to the Gambia?
Actually, something happened in Kaolack just before our training. We were so excited. We did very well, all 15 of us, and then we prepared to go, when we were prepared to go and do our parachute jumps to have our para medals, administrative cut it short that we finished the training, we shouldn't stay there anymore, and then we were brought back. We didn't like at all. We wanted them to allow us to complete that part of the training, which was very, very, very important in our military careers. So we came back expecting that they're going to give us our sergeant ranks after finishing both certificates. That didn't happen. Then the British Army training team was already in town to recruit their first intake, who always tease us as zero intake. They are the first intake, but actually we are the first. But nonetheless, they are young brothers. We leave it to them. So when we came, we saw the British, and then they came and they said they're not going to give us the sergeant ranks because they don't know the depth of our training and what we can and what we cannot. So we were all put to a cadre course, which we did for a couple of weeks, covering all aspects of the basic military training again, including regimentation, and we all came out very well. And I remember it was there and then that about 8 of us was straight away taken to the training wing to become training instructor in the Gambia National Army.
So if I understand correctly, you were a sergeant as well as a training instructor at that time?
No, I started as we were given corporal ranks.
Corporal, okay.
We were all given corporal ranks. Instead of the sergeant rank, we were expecting to be given when we came back.
So after that, can you tell us when you had your next promotion?
My next promotion was whilst in the training wing. I believe recommendation came from Sergeant Major Allen and the BAT team. Then I was given a sergeant rank and then was prepared to go to pipe right at the guards depot for all arms drill course.
It says here that that took place in 1985. Can you tell us in which country that's based in?
Great Britain, United Kingdom.
Do you recall how long that course was?
I was there for 3 months.
And after that, you returned to the Gambia?
Yes, after that I returned to the Gambia and went back to training wing and continued training.
Did your rank change at all after that training?
At the time, no.
So can you tell us when you received your next promotion?
I was in the training wing, trained a couple of other recruit intakes. And then when the B company was formed, I was promoted to staff sergeant, which is the rank next to sergeant. And then I was at the B company, moved to B company.
At that time, where was the B company based?
In Yundum.
And do you recall for how long you served in that capacity?
Not how long, but I was there a couple of years as a staff sergeant before being promoted to W2 Class 2, warrant officer Class 2, and became company sergeant major for B company.
Thereafter, what was your next promotion?
I was a W2 for a while before becoming before being promoted to W1 and appointed RSM of 1 battalion.
And WO1 meaning Warrant Officer First
Warrant
Class?
Officer Class 1.
That's one. It says here that was in 1987, is that correct?
Thank you, ma'am.
I would like to now focus on the role of an RSM. Can you explain to us what the role of an RSM is within the Army?
As an RSM, you are responsible of discipline and welfare of all soldiers. That is from the recruit, the private soldier, lance corporal, corporal, sergeant, staff sergeant, WO2, and all WO1s.
Are those class of, those ranks known under any particular umbrella?
Yes, from lance corporal to corporal are the junior NCOs, junior non-commissioned officers. And sergeant, staff sergeant are senior non-commissioned officers. And the WOs are warrant officers, class 1 and class 2.
Just to make sure everyone is on the same page, what is the difference between a commissioned officer and a non-commissioned officer?
A commissioned officer, those are officers commissioned they are responsible of command and control the men. The non-commissioned officers are directly responsible of the men. And
when you say men, are you referring to ordinary soldiers?
Ordinary
right?
soldiers.
Non-officers.
Non-officers. Lance corporals, for example, they are like in the army, we have what we call sections, platoons, companies, battalion. At section level, you have a lance corporal, a full corporal who will be responsible of, who will be the section commander, and then the lance corporal will be his section twice, and they will have between 8 and 10 men under their control, command and control. And then times 3 give you a platoon. And then they will have a platoon sergeant. The 3 sections will come under a sergeant, who will be the platoon sergeant. And then times 3 of a platoon again gives you a company. Then they will get a company sergeant major and their company headquarters, where they will have a staff sergeant who will be responsible of the admin of the company. And then they will have, each platoon then will have a second lieutenant or a lieutenant who will be their platoon commanders and platoon twices. And then the company will have a captain who will be the company commander.
And just to complete that, 3 companies then form a battalion.
Battalion, plus 3 plus another company headquarters form a battalion.
So as RSM, you're responsible for discipline and welfare of the men?
Of the men, and checking on the officers as well.
So let's take it step by step. How would you describe your relationship with the men, first of all?
Yes. My relationship with the men will have to be on one aspect, discipline. Like we used to say, all of them have to toe the line when it comes to discipline, number 1. The RSM will be responsible every morning to make sure all platoons or companies, if it's a battalion, companies, they are master parade. We have master parade every morning, where to ascertain how many soldiers we have for the day, who is sick, who is absent, who is on training, etc., etc. And then that will be compiled and then bring to the RSM, where all details will be taken down on a board, breakdown, etc., and then taking to the quartermaster in order for the feeding to be able to be catered for that day. And again, the RSM as well is responsible to make sure all company sergeant majors don't flinch for a moment in anything when it comes to discipline and training.
In terms of comparing your relationship as an RSM with the men and looking at that against the relationship of the officers who command the men, how would you describe the link between you and the officers in relation to control of the men?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, that was a bit of a complicated question. I'll rephrase. The officers have control of the men, as in their role as commanders of companies, for example. As RSM, you're responsible for the discipline of the men. In essence, my question is, who has more control over the men, more influence over the men?
I would say the RSM, what happened is because he's directly in contact with the men through his senior NCOs and junior NCOs, I would say the RSM have more control over the men. But when it comes to command, the officers go ahead and do whatever activities, duties, command they have in regarding to the job.
So if the RSM notices incidences of indiscipline among the men, what kind of steps can the RSM take directly?
I will first find out under who they are. I would first tend to deal with that person first before he goes to find out. Because as an RSM, it's very difficult for you to come across soldiers doing something. But if it's brought to my attention, that soldier must be under a sergeant and a possibly company sergeant major, whom I will call into my office, address to go and find out, and then get back to me. And then we take it from there. But at platoon and company levels, if any of the soldiers happens to misbehave or have any disciplinary problem or whatsoever, they will be checked by their sergeants and then report to their company sergeant majors. If it's something that needs my attention, they'll bring it, and then we take it from there.
So as an RSM, can you lock up a soldier, for example, on your own?
Yes, without question. Because RSM is supposed to be a symbol of discipline. So if any soldier is found to be off the line, the RSM will deal with him. I can lock anyone.
When it comes to investigations in relation to the men, does the RSM play a particular role if one of the men is being investigated for something?
Yes, if any of the men is being investigated for whatsoever reason, RSM must be aware. It could either be the RSM who initiated the investigation, because like I said, if it's something to do within the barracks, the RSM have a group of police that are called provosts. He will set them out to go and look for the individual and then find out what happened and then bring him to the guard room, where he would later be marched into my office, and then I find out what went wrong. If not, we can refer the case to the military police if it's something outside the barracks, etc., for them to go and carry out an investigation and then report back to me, and then I will take it to the adjutant and commander if need be.
A similar question in relation to the officers. If the RSM finds that an officer is acting in an indisciplined manner, what recourse does the RSM have in relation to officers?
If it's a minor thing that I need to just caution him, I will do there and then. But they are officers, commissioned officers. Their discipline is the commander and the adjutant who is responsible. But I can caution them, But there is a way of doing it as well. I can caution an officer, but at the end of whatever statement I make, I have to say, sir, if not, I could in turn be subordinating that officer and he can go and report me.
So you can tell them off, but essentially you have to end your statement with sir.
Yes. Or if I found any officer to be doing something that is off the record or so, I can tell him, or I can go straight to the commander or adjutant to tell him about the officer's behavior and character.
When a non-commissioned officer wants to become a commissioned officer, does the RSM have a role to play in that regard?
Yes. Because what happened in the army then is we have an officer cadre that's organized. To become an officer, you have a lot of criteria and standards to meet. If you don't, I'm afraid we don't select you to go for that cadre. And if you are selected for the cadre, you have to go and prove yourself beyond reasonable doubt that you can wear that pip if you happen to have the chance. And during that time, if you happen to be selected and then you're doing the cadre course at the training school and you happen to excel and then been appointed officer cadet, then you are attached to the RSM for orientation. RSM puts you through, prepare you to become an officer. RSM prepares them to become an officer. And even if someone is newly promoted to second lieutenant, waiting to go for their training, they are attached to the RSM who puts them through. And when they happen to go out for their training, when they come back again, there is a period that the RSM will be looking after them in terms of shaping them up.
That's very helpful for us to understand your role as RSM and what kind of influence you had in the military. Throughout your period, throughout your appointment as RSM, did you maintain the rank of WO1, Warrant Officer First Class?
Yes, ma'am.
And in 1994, how many RSMs were in the Gambia National Army?
1994, we had 3 RSMs, all share the same rank, W1, but being the most senior RSM, W1, I was appointed the Army RSM.
Can you tell us who the other RSMs were?
One was in Farafenye, called W2 Jaju, but he was acting as the RSM. One was in Yundum Barracks, 1 battalion, that was W1 RSM Alaji Faye. Can I just explain about Alaji Faye there, please?
Please proceed.
Alaji Faye's appointment as RSM, what happened was I was supposed to go to UK for treatment, and then someone in the army, no post or position is vacant. It's always filled. I get all the Ibrahima, someone called W2 Ibrahima Ba was supposed to take over from me. So I call him into my office together with all the other senior warrant officer class 2s, including Alaji Faye himself. And I told them that I will be away and Ibrahim Abba will be acting. Unfortunately, Ibrahim turned it down. And I asked why. He clearly told me that he cannot do it. To the extent that he was crying that he cannot. I want to kill him. I said, no, you will have their support. He said, no, he cannot just do it. At that point then, I said to him, then someone junior to you will have to step in and take over. And if he does, I expect you to comply and give him the support. I think that word clearing, because a lot of people are asking the question, Alaji Faye was not the senior W2 warrant officer class 2 at the time, why he became my successor. This is what happened.
You mentioned that at some point you went to the UK for treatment.
Yes, ma'am.
Was your condition in any way related to your functions within the army? The condition that led to your treatment in the UK, was it as a result of the work you were doing in the army?
Yes. What happened is between 1985-86, we had a military life exercise in Keneba. Everything that we were using on that exercise was live. And because I was in the at the training wing at the time, we organized everything for the soldiers to go through, at least to have the taste of live exercise. And then remember, when the exercise area was set up, and then at the time we had a recruit intake during the training, and then I was asked to stay back and prepare the recruits. After, when the trained soldiers have gone through the exercise, we can take the recruit as well. So I stayed back to prepare the recruits. And when they went and did started the exercise after from the UK, when they came to what was happening, he was invited. And then the army commander escorted him there. On the arrival there, I think questions were asked as to who were behind it, etc., etc. And then my name was mentioned to go and answer the exercise ground. And then was given the we went, and then after the ceremony, I was to, but that's not the norm. I don't want to be in his vehicle. I went with the vehicle. And then the police at Kalaji, it was in the Ramadan, the police at Kalaji said to me, that was Yankuba Koli, who was the mayor of KMC, said to me, we'll wait for you to break the fast. I said, yeah, I'll pass by. And then when we were coming back, some of these soldiers who were already injured, I was to bring them back to Indum for treatment or to RVH. So coming from Keneba up to a point, farmers were preparing, it was around May, I believe, yeah. Farmers were preparing their grounds. Everywhere was cleared. Everywhere was cleared. We saw a very big black cow on the middle of the road. We came very close to it. It went away. We further continued with Kalaji. And again, we saw where it came from. No one could tell you. And the next thing, to people, we were there, and then people, the military, told them what happened, started converging, and then ambulances at the veranda of Kalaji police told that there is this double who borrowed them his attire. I was there till when that could carry a stretcher drove down to RVH. They said I arrived at RVH, and Dr. Jones still waiting for the last casualty.
Take your time.
Dr. Jones, after doing his normal check, he told them that he thinks there is still life in this soldier. So I was taken to theater for resuscitation. I was there till about 3 in the morning, after 3, before I responded. but I went into coma. Sorry, ma'am.
Please take your time. Don't rush at all. We're here to listen to you.
So I went into coma, and I was in coma for about 6 weeks. And then when I responded back, X-rays didn't show that I sustained a fracture at the time because my neck was swollen. It was after the 6 week going, between 6 and 10 weeks, they were able to do a proper X-ray, and then it shows that I sustained a fracture between C5 and C6. I don't know, it's a medical term, that is the color, sustained a fracture. So I was in hospital for some time. And at one point, I had a cousin who died in a light aircraft, and then people thought that it was me. And then it was just too much at the time. So I was in hospital.
You said that you were injured on your collarbone. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did that injury affect your ability to either move around or to do your work?
At the time when I was in the hospital, yes, but after when I was discharged from the hospital, they said they were going to arrange for me to be evacuated for treatment. This was in 85, 86. It never happened. I was going to physiotherapy with the collar, neck collar. Couple of months after until it healed, basically naturally it heals, I went back into duties. I was never evacuated at the time. I went back to duties, serving again. But from time to time, I do have problems, and then will feel numbness on my left side. That was what continued until at the time, which was in
Or perhaps you can tell us in relation to events at the time. When did you go to the UK for treatment? What was happening around that time in the Gambia?
Sorry?
I'm trying to situate when you went to the UK for treatment in relation to events at the time. So let's take, for example, the Gambia's involvement in the peacekeeping or peace enforcement mission in ECOWAS.
Yes.
In relation to that, can you situate when you went to the UK for treatment?
Yeah. In fact, before I went to UK for treatment, after recovering, slightly recovered, and then started back my normal duties, it was when Gambia joined ECOMOG to dispatch soldiers to Liberia. Remember at the time when we were preparing the soldiers to go to Liberia, I had a lot of problems, the camp at the time, because everyone wanted to be part of that contingent, but not all of them can go. We were sending only a company, which was about 100, 150 men, but every soldier wanted to go. And we could not wait until it was time for the deployment before we start picking soldiers from other units to come. No, a company was tasked and assigned for the deployment, so we prepared them. But my problem was soldiers were coming trying to get themselves into that contingent to go to Liberia. So it was a big problem with me. And I didn't go because I was the RSM. They had their company sergeant major who went with them.
We'll come back to the treatment that you received in the UK.
Yes.
Let's focus for now on this group of soldiers that went to Liberia on the peace enforcement mission. We have heard testimony that upon their return, there were protests in relation to unpaid allowances and the like. Can you tell us a bit about that?
There is a history before we get to that. If you may allow me to explain that, please.
Please proceed, yeah.
Okay. When we deployed the soldiers to Liberia, they went without questioning it. As, like I said before, even other soldiers were trying to get themselves into the group, but they could not. They went and they excelled there in Liberia. Because I remember the field commander, Dogo Nyaro, came back to Gambia after some time to give report to Sadauda. And we had a passing out parade in the camp, and he was invited. When he came, he asked for the RSM, and I was asked to go and see him. I went, he was with the commander. After saluting him, he shook my hands and then hugged me and said to me, "Well done. Whatever you're doing, you're on track. Keep it up." Said to me, "Your boys, they are excellent soldiers. They did very well in Liberia. They're doing very well." I said, "Thank you, sir." But when they were in Liberia, we lost 2 soldiers there, Private Bojang and Lance Corporal, or Private Bojang and Sama Jawo. Being the first time we sent troops out and then having casualties, we were wondering as to what was going to happen to their bodies. But because of the war at the time, decision was not made conclusive. And then we had Captain Kambi, who sustained injury, who was later brought back for treatment. And then their company commander, Captain Omar Fay, came back. Why, I don't know at the time. Later, there is a position where I will explain what I knew what happened. When the soldiers finished their tour of duty in Liberia and were supposed to come back, we had a logistic problem in order to bring them back.
Just to clarify, this is the first contingent we're talking.
First contingent.
Please proceed.
We had logistics issues to bring them back. They stayed there for another extra 3 months. And finally, when the Nigerian commander was able to secure an aircraft to bring them back, that happened. And when they came back, this is when problems started to arise in the army. But I want people to look at it in a different angle, because it was only 3 months, not their full term of duty out there. And when they came, everything was in process, but because of the slow and bureaucracy it has to go through, it was delayed. The payment was delayed. And at the time, we have one Captain Mamadou Bojang, who was supposed to be the intelligence commander or intelligence officer. And at the time, because of some people were so selfish and greed, not contented to what they had or what they were, he chose to incite this indiscipline and mutiny into the soldiers.
What is the basis of your information? How did you know that?
I was the RSM. Whatever activities is happening in my camp, I ought to know. And when the disturbance, just before it started, I got to the bottom of it. I spoke to the soldiers, I found out what happened, and then I come to know that it was Captain Mamadou Bojang who was incited them to start asking for that money to the extent of creating mayhem by causing mutiny.
Was Captain Bojang deployed to Liberia as well?
Yes, he was deployed to Liberia with them, but because he's an officer, he ought not to come forward, start making those kind of a claim. He would be dealt with. Because at the time, we had a commander who doesn't take any nonsense from anyone.
Who was the commander of the Gambia National Army?
Colonel Mamadou Ndaw Njai.
So can you tell us what happened after
I went to his office and told him what was happening regarding Captain Mamadou Bojang. And then, Colonel Ndaw Njai, knowing him, he organized to meet the soldiers and to listen to their relevant concerns and see how to take it from there. When he organized the meeting, it was in the QRF room, Quick React Force room. He was there with Press Jany, who was his adjutant at the time, Captain Pasala Jany, Press Jany. He was there with the chief clerk, who is WO2 Ja. Plus the British Army training team, part of them were there, including Colonel Shaw and Sergeant Major Allen. What I'm telling you right now here is I was told by Colonel Ndaw Njai and the Ja and the adjutant. I was not at the meeting. When they had the meeting, listening to the soldiers' concerns and grievances, because what they were made to believe by Captain Mamadou Bojang, they started asking questions. At that time, Colonel Gilbert Shaw and W2 Allen could not understand or accept soldiers behaving the way they were at the moment, at the time. Between Colonel Shaw and Major Allen, but I believe it was Colonel Shaw, went out and fired his pistol on the air, trying to intimidate the soldiers to stop what they were, the way they were making the demands. This didn't went down very well. These are boys who were just coming from a war zone. They were made to believe that it's their money, they should have it. But it was in progress. It was just slow in coming, and then things went out of hand. They all rushed out of the room. Some of them rushed to the guard room to grab the weapons of the guards. Because of the standard of discipline and training we had at the army at the time, the boys knew the consequences of letting these boys to take their weapons. They never let them do that. Some of them then proceeded to the back of the camp where we had 2 sentry posts mounted with machine guns. They went to overpower the guard to take his gun. The guard wouldn't let them have it. He chose to exhaust all the ammunition into the forest, into the bush. So, the boys, that's how it started there. And then I was in my house, and then I heard my name being shouted by Lysen Kopulsen. RSM, RSM, RSM. I came out, half dressed. He said, Colonel needs you in the camp. So I quickly dressed and then came to the camp, which I believe the respect between me and the soldiers, as I entered into the camp, they wouldn't want to come into contact with me. Some of them, they choose to run away to the back and then jump over the fence. They had a driver in them called Kopul Bojang. They then commanded a GPTC boss and then fled to Banjul. I just want to clarify one thing here. None of the soldiers went to Banjul with weapons. None of them went to Banjul with weapons. They went empty-handed. No one stopped them at the bridge. Nobody stopped them at the bridge. They went straight to State House, and because I believe the discipline they had at the time, they assembled themselves and they were told to go and sit at Makati Square, which they marched themselves to Makati Square. At the pavilion, they sat there.
You were not at the bridge at the time.
No.
How do you know that they weren't stopped at the bridge? Can you clarify that?
Yes, because it is after when later I was called to Banjul, which I was going to come to.
And please proceed telling the story.
And they went to Makati Square and sat at the pavilion until the Secretary General was ready to see them, and they were called in. Then, this time,
Who was the Secretary General at that time?
Uncle Sarah Jangha. When they took them to State House, Commander Colonel Ndaunjai was there. They went through what happened, what their demands were. And I found out that Sadauda, the president, was very, very, very upset as to why would that happen, leading to what happened, for them not to be paid their money. And then Colonel Ndaunjai called for me to go and meet him in Banjul. I went. At the later part of the discussion, when I came and got in, most of it was already dealt with. I remember they were asking the soldiers questions, but my presence stopped them from responding. And again, they were asked to, and I said, no, not in my presence will I stand allowing soldiers to question in my commander. I stopped it. I remember Colonel Ndaujai being asked by the Secretary General if he's the army commander or you. He told him he is responsible of them. When everything finished, and then they were told that they would get their money immediately, so I asked them to go down with the senior man to match them, assemble them, match them, and then they should board the trucks, head back to Yundum camp, but not to enter the camp. Because I told them that what they did, they're going to be dealt with. They should go and sit at the football field and wait for me. They all went to the football field. That's where they sat and wait for me until I came back from Banjul. When we came back from Banjul, I told them they're going to be dealt with. So the ringleaders were identified.
Do you recall the names of any of the so-called ringleaders?
Not at the moment, not now.
Please.
And then some of them were from the army. The rest received different various form of punishment. Their money were paid, and then lives continue.
You said that you were told that they weren't stopped at the bridge, at Denton Bridge.
No.
Who informed you of that?
They themselves.
Mr. Chairman, I noticed that it's 10 minutes before the break. Perhaps now would be a good time to defer to the commissioners if you have any questions. Otherwise, I will continue with my questioning.
Thank you very much, Chairman Council. The commissioners don't have any. You would want to continue a little bit before the 30-minute break starts in about 10 minutes over.
I would like to use the 10 minutes, so continue until the break.
Please continue your questioning.
Thank you. So that was the first protest by
Yes.
soldiers returning from Liberia.
Yes.
And at that time, you've explained that Colonel Ndaunjai was still the army commander.
Yes, ma'am.
Did he remain as army commander until the second time that there were protests by soldiers returning from Ecomog, or?
It was between those two meetings that Colonel Ndonjai left the army.
Can you tell us why he left?
After the first meeting, something happened. The Ecomog field commander at the time made a report against one of our senior officers, who was Major Omar Fay, or captain, I believe, at the time. And which led to his discipline. And then it was from there that Colonel Ndaunjai left the army. What happened was the soldiers were deployed to Liberia with their company commander, whom they were supposed to be looking up to, lead them in the battlefield. For whatsoever reason, after when the battle started, he was not with them, and subsequently, he was in the Gambia. We later found out that he was sick, but was not in the camp. And then it was later we found out that he was admitted in Westfield Clinic. Not by the army. After some time, when the report came, and then it was recommended that he should be discharged from the military. I remember that came from Mr. Wada, who was our permanent secretary, Minister of Defense at the time. MB Wada. I remember when he was taking to orders, a charge sheet was drawn, and he was taking before the commander. He was reduced in rank, forfeit seniority for a couple of about 6 months or so. As a commissioner of the Minister of Defense, remember he was told that the punishment was very lenient for what he did. Sorry, this was before the report came from Ecomog. The fact that he was supposed to be there, he was not there, he came back and was not reporting for duties in the camp. That was what led to his charge sheet being drawn. Whilst the army commander went to report and he was told that the punishment was lenient, in between this time, that was when the report came from Liberia as to why he left and what should happen to him, and the recommendation they made. It was then that he was discharged from the army. We didn't went down very well with him. And then from there, after some time, I remember the colonel, that was when he resigned from the army. And when he choose and make up his mind to leave, I as his RSM, when he called me to his office, I went. And when I asked the question, why are you resigning, sir? He said, for the best of the army, for the best of the country, and himself, was best for him to resign. Simply because here I am. I'm as the commander. I had the command and control of the men. No one dares disobey my orders. Now it has started to happen, and my authority as commander is being undermined to the extent that Captain Omar Faye was to be reinstated without him being consulted or informed of his return into the army. I have to leave, and I accepted it at the time for him. Different. I need to clarify that because I sat watching TV, watching the commission, hearing a lot of narratives. I am telling them that they are lying. Colonel Ndaunjai, no one sacked him. He resigned based on principles.
Mr. Jang, it's best not to say that people are lying, but we want to hear your version of events and and the basis of your knowledge. So it is
Yes,
is it your testimony that Colonel Ndaunjai resigned because he saw this as the beginning of the breakdown in command in the Gambia National Army, as his orders were being disobeyed and
Started to be disobeyed, and interference started to happen in the command and control of the army.
interference by?
Politicians and civilians in authority at the time.
And so Colonel Ndaunjai resigned from the army. Who took over command of the Gambia National Army after that?
I was surprised that other narratives have been given and names have been forgotten. We had a very great officer called Major Momodu Gay. He took over from Ndaunjai.
Do you recall how long Major Gay served as commander of the Gambia National Army?
He was there for a period, and nothing changes. Everything, discipline, everything, spirits were high. Until he was deployed he went to Liberia and came back. After that, we found out that he is to be redeployed to the to customs and excise.
After his redeployment, who took over command of the Gambia National Army?
Major Mabajop.
During the time that the second demonstration occurred by soldiers returning from Ecomog, who was in command of the army?
Major Mabajop.
I think this would be a good place to stop before we enter the events of the second protest. Mr. Chairman, I will conclude and then resume after the break. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor, and thank you very much, Mr. Jang. Are there any questions from the Commission? Otherwise, we would wait until the end of the next session. No questions, no points. Oops, excuse me. Commissioner Samba.
Commissioner Samba, Mr. Juf, I wanted to know those dead bodies, how were they? Are they left in buried there, or are they buried in the Gambia?
They were later brought back and then given to the families for burial.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emma. If there are no further questions, we will take a 30-minute break and come back sharp noon. Meeting is adjourned.
fear over electoral rigging rocks Zimbabwe as the country.
Yesterday, after listening to Prime Minister May's assessment of the state of the negotiations,
$57 vehicles, you are giving it to parliamentarians. Where is the source? The parliamentarians themselves should challenge that.
Yes, APRC and GBC are opposition. All other parties that doesn't concern you, either UDP or NRP or PPP, they are all in the government. Man, dama against ID card mu nekk $450. Man mosuma si anata du mosuma sa anda.
Yow xaalis boobu nu mu fa ñëwee loolu nga war a njëkk a laajte because social security institution doo xam ne social security warut a ñàkk a xaalis fi profit social security loolu waxtaani banda la loolu dafa war a automatique.
Baro lu ma ko ñaan mooy na wàcce 3 years am su demee 5 years dafa am problème leadership bu fi bàyyi dafa bon right now amul direction bu correct réew mi ñëpp seen am na disappointment si nguuri Baro.
Benn nit munta jagal réew da ngaa def li nga war a def bàyyi keneen ñu continuer
Sénégalais, Sénégalais, mes chers compatriotes, dans mon message du 31 décembre 2015, je vous avais entretenu du projet de révision de la Constitution.
Kontaan nga ci Macky tëj sàcc yu ndaw yi bàyyu Macky ñi fi transhumé est-ce que ñi ngi jeel opposant yaa ngi rëbës fees dell Macky ak Wade dañu nuroo laay dafa wax waxet Macky dafa def wax waxet wax waxaat waxati waxet wax dëgg lii du fi gule koo ci fal bu lay mbas da lay bett est-ce que sañ nga wax kilifa da ngay meew noppi balaa ñu naan dañu réew presse bi sañatina def critique foog nga d'accord ni mip wala dik sañ nga bañ ne dëkk bi dafa Macky mi ngi lay dal yaa ngi koy yëg est-ce que baadoolo bi am na lu mu añee jël sunu xaalis di ko campagne loo nam nguuru PDS dafa mel ni ñii ñoo gën a yees politique bi dañ ko nawetanisé moom laa gis ci débat télévisé ak lii yëpp di nga voté oui boycotté wala voté non
fi ngay nekkeero ba nga des ci zéro non ku ne am na baat te sa carte mooy sa baat nañu bañ a déggoo waaye bu mu tax ñu noono bu référendum bi weesoo ñun ñëpp ñooy dëkk
dige woon 5 ans
waaw
bëgg a toog 7 ans xewagul di xewi war nga wax di weddi watt li ko fi folli dina fi bàyyi Macky ko tam dafa bese di du référendum kese
Mes chers compatriotes,
nguur gi ak ñoo bëgg a buzz am na fu ñu toj def nañ fii ñeenti years est-ce que Sénégal a ngi dox mais wàññi ne loyer ceeb essence bu xaalis amul dina am sens wax dëgg yàlla seen nguur gi neexul wala ñi ñu jot a fal ñoo aayul réew penco pàcco wote su ma voté oui dafay toog 5 ans ñu ne voté non du ko tere toog 7 ans dafa am piège est-ce que xam nga li nga nar a voté marron ak beige bu ñàkkee ndax dina démissionné ñu taxawoon 23 juin dinañ nangu voté say 15 points dina si fay sal ñoo fii reñe dinañu seetaan non bi di gagné
non da nga bëgg wax ne gars yi dañuy luwal carte gi fi ngay nekkero ba nga des si zéro no ku ne am na baat te sa carte mooy sa baat nañu bañ a déggoo waaye bu mu tax ñu noono no bu référendum bi weesoo ñun ñëpp ñooy dëkk
dige woon 5 ans
waaw
bëgg a toog 7 ans xewagul di xewi war nga wax di weddi wadd li ko fi folli dina fi bàyyi Macky ko tam dafa bese di du référendum kese
est-ce que nii la ñu defaree dëkk ku ne di ñoo di naan mana ñoom xam nañu suñu bëgg-bëgg mais dañu jàppee mala est-ce que war nañu dëkk ci coow saa yu élection jubatee xam li la war bu la kenn tere voté kenn pale wu la tee fi ngay nekkeeroo ba nga des si zéro no ku ne am na baat te sa carte mooy sa baat nañu bañ a déggoo waaye bu mu tax ñu noono no bu référendum bi weesoo ñun ñëpp ñooy dëkk
dige woon 5 ans bëgg a toog 7 ans xewagul di xewi war nga wax di weddi wadd li ko fi folli dina fi bàyyi Macky ko tam dafa bese di du référendum kese
And if you on the beat. Shy Boy Production.
Ngode tulolo fenna ka kesen jang.
Konte mamoy.
Ngode tulolo fenna ka kesen jang.
Konte mamoy.
Ngode tulolo fenna ka kesen jang.
Sama bala gija wale ka kesen jang.
Ngode tulolo fenna ka kesen jang.
Yo no lu mental wale ka kesen jang.
Ngode tulolo fenna ka kesen jang.
Sama bala gija wale ka kesen jang.
Ngode tulolo fenna ka kesen jang.
Yo no lu mental wale ka kesen jang. Ngamoyle Saim fana ngamoyle Ngamoyle Chaim fana ngamoyle
Fenna kumata Dilbo ma fandi ma fanga ngamoyle Ngodo kala jituna Wainante kawatal Ngodo Dakari dia dan ngetu jese kalafil Ngodo Dakari dia dan ngetu jese kalafil Ngodo tulolo fenna ka kesen jang
Dakari dia ta
Ngodo tulolo fenna ka kesen jang
Dakari nenna
Ngodo tulolo fenna ka kesen jang
Sama bala gija wale ka kesen jang.
Ngodo tulolo fenna ka kesen jang
Yo no lu mental wale ka kesen jang.
Ngodo tulolo fenna ka kesen jang
Sama bala gija wale ka kesen jang.
Ngodo tulolo fenna ka kesen jang
Yo no lu mental wale ka kesen jang. Lai bolule fene kale kesen jang. Kuma fene kale kumaja kulo fene kale kesen jang. Lai bolule fene kale kesen jang. Kuma fene kale kumaja kulo fene kale kesen jang.
Ai hai maribita iman sandangula atabailam maribita iman sandangula ataje atabali bije preso fefo taje atabali bije preso fefo Ngodo tulolo fenna ka kesen jang
Sama bala gija wale ka kesen jang.
Ngodo tulolo fenna ka kesen jang
Yo no lu mental wale ka kesen jang.
Ngodo tulolo fenna ka kesen jang
Sama bala gija wale ka kesen jang.
Ngodo tulolo fenna ka kesen jang
Yo no lu mental wale ka kesen jang. Konte mamoy
Gote tu lolo fenna ka kesen jang.
Konte mamui ngamoile saim fana ngamoile chaim fana ngamoile mata seila ngamoile saim fana ngamoile alimbula ngamoile chaim fana ngamoile.
Llegó el baile en bendizo bailar no llegó el baile en bendizo bailar. No di jale indi sabari Alige bisani kopari
Inde nga shine Trrc nga xeex li nga def samay sax sa xol di jeex wala añ nga suur teuf li xaax ni teuf kaji nga reer bi tuur taal sa jum di ëf
yow li tax bi meer bi feebare jëndoo garab yóbbu lopitaan tey nag tëj bi niñ ko defaree aduna jay la ñaata junni nga taal
5-6 nga tëj kii kër yi taay te nga ne ci tëj wala ñaan di waay def taat di jooy xolu gan yi tis man di kat nga boy jëli naa la fis
boo jéegoo del baale nañ diisoo bañ laale boo jéegoo del baale nañ diisoo bañ laale
defuma yëguma bu ma ko waxal gisuma dégguma jotuma jaxal doxuma naanuma yoruma goon sàccuma kàccuma duma sa noon
danga yëg sa bopp maa la gën a réew danga mën a soof danga ñeme xew yàgg wane baax te sa jikko sew alal li nga coob du la ma sa leew
bal ma li ma saaga yaay sama gain bi ngay laal càgga ñoo ngi naan cain nañu peace love dundu paradise kaa ñu naan kof dafa war a nice
jóge foore fexe indi jàmm boole doole dina indi jàmm bàyyi tooñ gën dëkke balu ak ñaan gudd fan tuub li ñu yàq
tuule naa la doom dëgg la ci man boo feebaroon naa la yóbbu fan
man la nit njaay yow la kolowaan yàgga saay saay bandi kolobaan
lii moo tax duñu mën a ko sunu amitié na fi ménopause
boo jéegoo del baale nañ diisoo bañ laale boo jéegoo del baale nañ diisoo bañ laale
It's J Life music. My love, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Summer city to the story, man. I wanna hold you tight, make you under them go away, my ring you. And they say, make you swing the can do I not. yek bi ma yàgga yek ci yow duma ci dellu ginnaaw sudut yow fi la di die ndax in my life you are the one I want to spend it till eternity. You are my love and my soul. Say without you, do my mona dalu. I'm spiritually connected to you. Tue ma vie, yamata hanjo. Kame kimado, kame fimajo. Man yo reglagam, yamata hanjo. Kame kimado, kame fimajo. Kon yalla ñu am doom. I can't wait for 1 night, 2, then by 6 to 66 years just to marry you. Even soon do I feel weeks. Me and you keeping home though a happiness. I'll be calling you my new and the fly. My life, you are the one I want to spend it till eternity. You are my love and my soul. Say without you, do my mona dalu. I'm spiritually connected to you. Tue ma vie, yamata hanjo. Kame kimado, kame fimajo. Man yo reglagam, yamata hanjo. Kame kimado, kame fimajo. Kon yalla ñu am doom.
Yeah, okay. Suñu dundu benn seconde dina ma neex duma fàtte lu ñu seqoon léegi gën a high fu ma la tegoon na doon dëgg nga di aw nekk seconde nekk sama yaayi doom di seen école jigéen bu taaru tabe oyof seen xol mën a kee ni labbe loo ko rawee wan ko ginnaaw rekk mu dabe bëgg naa la nabe ku ne bëgg nekk sa jëkkër doo fi lambe fu jikko ju baax nekk rek laa lambe Sénégal ak Gambie nga nekk sama làmmeñ romb sama càmmeñ sa doom yi ngay am laa bëgg ñu juddoo caameen loobo ma dofloo lii la ma defloo ma mel ni ku lekk rajo teg bit lii la ma wéyloo lii la ma wéyloo
Love you.
It's revolution time. Even if you're blind, you can see the signs. Don't be left behind. This one dedicated to all the Gambians people, victims of Yaya Jammeh. You can fool some people sometimes, but not everybody all the time. Hey! Nothing new under Gambia sky. Nothing new under Gambia sky. Yaya rob and steal and tell a liar. Nothing new under Gambia sky. Because of his politics, now people die. Nothing new under Gambia sky. Nothing new, nothing new, nothing new under Gambia sky. What's the purpose of your life if you don't have no right? You can't win the battle if you're not ready to fight. Tell me the meaning of your life if you don't know your right. It's like living in the darkness and don't expect light. Give me the power of the warrior. We have to live it up. It's like the beginning of a new era. Uno better hurry up, but me say nothing new under Gambia sky. Nothing new under Gambia sky. Yeah, rob and steal and tell a liar. Nothing new under Gambia sky. Because of his politics, now people die. Nothing new under Gambia sky. Nothing new, nothing new, nothing new under Gambia sky. Tell me who's afraid of the change? How long are you gonna live on the minimum wage? Who's afraid for cross the age? For once in all your life, go get your privilege. Cause life is how you make it, either you change it or accept it. Take the right decision and don't you ever regret it. Life is how you make it, either you change it or accept it. If you want freedom, no one but yourself can go get it. Nothing new under Gambia sky. Nothing new under Gambia sky. Yeah, rob and steal and tell a liar. Nothing new under Gambia sky. Because of his politics, now people die. Nothing new under Gambia sky. Nothing new, nothing new, nothing new under Gambia sky. Yeah, remain the same. him, it's a game to fool the population. Oh damn, it's a shame. Using the nation. The opposition I complain. All them end up in a prison. Corruption, pressure, repression time. A country like a prison, you can go to jail for no reason. Corruption, pressure, repression time. But you not listen and sales for many, many seasons. Nothing new under Gambia sky. Nothing new under Gambia sky. Yeah, you rob and steal and tell a liar. Nothing new under Gambia sky. Because of his politics, now people die. Nothing new under Gambia sky. Nothing new, nothing new, nothing new under Gambia sky.
'Fear over electoral rigging rocks Zimbabwe as the country.
Yesterday, after listening to Prime Minister May's assessment of the state of the negotiations,
Why it is our diocesan patron feast day is because the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Assumption is dedicated.
Do not have it in their mindset or in their psyche that we are playing against Algeria.
Vehicles, you are giving it to parliamentarians. Where is the source? The parliamentarians themselves should challenge that.
Next, EYEAFRICA and GBC no opposition. All other parties that doesn't concern you people, either UDP or NRP or PPP, they are all in the government. Man, dama against ID mu nekk $450. Man mosuma si àndata du mosuma sa ànda.
yow xaalis boobu nu mu fa ñëwee loolu nga war a njëkk a laajte because social security institution doo xam ne social security warut a ñàkk a xaalis yëfi profit social security loolu waxtaani banda la loolu dafa war a automatique.
Baro lu ma ko ñaan mooy na wàcce 3 years am su demee 5 years dafa am problème leadership bu fi bàyyi dafa bon right now amul direction bu correct réew mi ñëpp seen am nañ disappointment si nguuri Baro.
benn nit mënut a jagal réew da ngaa def li nga war a def bàyyi keneen ñu continuer keneen ñu continuer.
Banjul breweries Wolkola nata nananga bindu Kukuto nata nananga bindu Wolkola nata nananga bindu Kukuto nata Wolkola nata wolkola nata wolkola nata lede Wolkola nata wolkola nata wolkola nata lede nata le de. Wal kola nata, wal kola nata, wal kola nata le de. Bam na chima gagdaw. Si wer ku yaram. Jox la chawarte. Defar sa yaram. Banjul breweries in the night and the chillin'. Wal kola, kola, wal kola, kola, wal kola. Wal kola nata, wal kola nata, wal kola nata le de. Wal kola nata, wal kola nata, wal kola nata le de. Wal kola nata, wal kola nata, wal kola nata le de. Wal kola nata, wal kola nata, wal kola nata le de.
Proudly brought to you by Banjul Breweries.
Fear over electoral rigging rocks Zimbabwe as the country.
Yesterday, after listening to Prime Minister May's assessment of the state of the negotiations,
Why it is our diocesan patron feast day is because the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Assumption is dedicated.
Do not have it in their mindset or in their psyche that we are playing against Algeria.
Surna, kerek dexin surna. Maklo kerek deke bako tubna. Mande ñaka dakh ñogi tribunal. Goto ba mak mana yangal ci nu daxine. Setlu na manatoma deke gale. Damay tak jog jël li ma am yobale. Sangara deug la yamba do balé. Sàcc la ñu may jiñ te naan may dogale.
Man de di nga de dootuñu amati jàmm dama bëgg nga nekk nit ci kër gi wala ma duma la mënoo dëkk ci xeex saaga ndey ci koñ bi wax bu ñaaw ku nekk na sa làmmiñ dëgg xam nga ne mandi waru la.
Sama mande yoonu kenn nekku ci. Sama xaalis daf ma lew kon nag maandu ci.
maanu naa ci démb tey mu andi la fitna yokku meer bi coono kaay ñu añ te bàyyi coow li.
Surna, kerek dexin surna. Maklo kerek deke bako tubna. Mande ñaka dakh ñogi tribunal. Goto ba mak mana yangal ci nu daxine. Surna, kerek dexin surna. Maklo kerek deke bako tubna. Mande ñaka dakh ñogi tribunal. Goto ba mak mana yangal ci nu daxine. Damay mande fessel nako waye ñaata ñoo fi yak bir japp seen ñambur ñaata ñoo fi lu ci doxan jabaru jambur paanu tey nga am looy lijjanti sama poto sambur mer yow gennal samay wax deng barki dem njaay sa jëkkër moo fi biiral bañ ko yéen li bon mi ngi ci kër gi de te gisu leen ko.
May I ask the usher to bring in the witness? Thank you.
Thank you all. Council, we may continue the proceedings. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome back, RSM Jeng. I hope that you had a good break. Please turn on the microphone.
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to remind you that you're still under oath.
Yes, ma'am.
Before the conclusion of the last session, we discussed the first demonstration by the soldiers returning from ECOMOG tour of duty in Liberia. I just wanted to ask you one more question about that. You told us that it was a company that went to Liberia.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall how many soldiers from that company actually took part in the protests?
It was just part of them, about under 30 of them, part of them.
And you told us that the leaders were identified, dismissed, others were charged.
Yes, ma'am.
You also told us that at the time of the return of the second contingent, it was Major Mabajob who was in charge of the Gambia National Army.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us about the second protest by that second contingent?
Yes, the second contingent, when they came back, it was like history repeating itself. Still, they were also, their money was delayed and they started to request for it. That was what led to their demonstration as well.
Is there a mechanism in the army through which such complaints are channeled?
There should be. There is, yes, ma'am.
And what is that?
They have to follow the hierarchy. They have such complaints, they should channel it through their platoon sergeants, who will then take it
to their, at company level, to be dealt with at company level. Company sergeant major, who will then see his company commander, and then from there, if it's something that is beyond the company commander, he can then refer it to the battalion commander, who should be able to deal with it.
And how was the protest by the second contingent manifested?
It was similar to the first one. They were demanding for their monies. And because this thing was in progress again, very slowly being done at government level, and the soldiers were impatient again to wait for that. That's what led to their demonstration. This demonstration, actually, I was not on duty at the time, because I was in my preparations to go for my treatment to UK.
From your recollection, what happened during the demonstration? Because you were still in the country at the time that it started. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. So what happened is I heard about the soldiers again making noise about their monies. And again, like I said on the previous one, without arms, nothing whatsoever, they find their way out of the camp and then head into Banjul. And I was told that Maba stopped them at the bridge.
When you say Maba, who are you referring to?
Commander Maba Job was able to join them there and then stop them there.
How did you know that it was Major Maba Job who stopped them from
I was told at the camp by the provost, I fully remember, yes.
Who was the provost at that time?
We had Provost Diba. Oh my God. I had a group of provosts. I can't recall their names, definitely.
To your knowledge, were the soldiers who took part in the second protest armed?
I was told two versions of it. Some said they were armed, firing on the air. Some said they were not. I could not confirm it.
So the soldiers went up to Denton Bridge, and according to you, it was Major Maba Job who stopped them?
Yes.
Do you know what happened after that?
They were brought back to the camp. The ringleaders were picked this time and then sent to Remind Wing in Mile 2. And then later, court-martial was organized for them to be tried, which I believe after some of them were discharged. At this time, I was in the UK.
Do you recall any of the names of these ringleaders?
No, ma'am.
So you said at the time of the court-martial, you were in the UK?
Yes, ma'am.
While you were in the UK, did the command of the Gambia National Army change?
At some point, yes. The commander of the Gambia National Army changed. Because I was in the UK. After some time, the British Army training team who was in town came back, went back, and then one of them met me, and I was told that they're back. And I asked why. They said because Nigerians came and took over, and they have to leave. And I fully remember Major Allen said to me, if you want to settle down in the UK, we can help you settle down, because we know that if you go back, you will start having problems. I wanted to take the offer, but at the time, something just struck me that I should stay, and they needed to come back. I may not able to. And after about 10, 11 years of service, 8, 9 years of service, I might as well go back and finish my army career and then decide what to do next. And then about a week or two later, I received a call from the Gambia embassy that Major Mabajob was looking for me. So I found my way to the embassy. When I met him, this was where we discussed what happened. He told me that he was relieved of his duties and was redeployed to the foreign mission. And he was attached to the Gambian embassy in Britain. And I wanted to know why. He said the Nigerians came, instead of coming to train us, they came and took over the army. And then he went on to tell me that being the army commander at the time, he was virtually stripped of all his authorities. Nothing was left. Well, he had problems with them, which led to government retire him and then redeploy him in foreign mission. One of the things he said to me was, remember, he said, even his guards, as a army commander, when they moved, he was not even informed. The vehicle he was using as army commander was taken away. Those are one of the things he told me. And he too told me, everyone saying that if you're back, you will have problem with the Nigerians. Don't go, you can try to stay. I said, no, I will go. I choose to come back.
If I understand your testimony correctly, Major Mabajob was resigned from the army in order to make way for the Nigerian commanders to take control of the army. Is that correct?
He was the commander. He was resigned because he disagreed with them a lot. And that led to his resignation or being discharged from the army.
Do you know what some of those disagreements were?
Well, what happened here is NATAG, Nigerian Army Training Assistance Group, came. I believe at the time, the army top brass, possibly they were not informed of exactly what their roles were. Memorandum of understanding maybe was not clearly stated as to what the Nigerians were here for or what they were here to do. So we at the time had the impression that they were here to train, but it looks like they took over command. And the fact that Mabajob was the commander at the time, I personally believe that whoever was coming and heading that group was supposed to be working hand in hand with him, reorientate him as to what the role of army commander is to be, guide him the right places. But for him, that was not the case. Because what we later found out is from number 1 to 21, 19, between 19 and 21 in hierarchy, the army was NATAC. And that's where the next most senior Gambia National Army officer started, who was Mabajob. And for the Nigerians, they could not comprehend Mabajob being our army commander, and his rank at the time was a major, to be holding that position. So what happened is, we have the we have General Dada as the army commander, plus few others in the headquarters, and all the battalions were headed by a Nigerian colonel. That's how it was.
You mentioned that it was about from number 1 to number 19 or 21.
Yes.
In terms of hierarchy, we're all Nigerian commanders.
Yes.
You mentioned that the battalions were headed by Nigerian commanders.
Yes, ma'am.
What about the 2 ICs of the battalion?
The 2 ICs of battalion, here is where you get the Gambian senior officers.
What about the companies? Were they headed by
Gambian senior officers?
Just a point of clarification, you mentioned that Major Mabajob resigned or was retired from the army?
Yes, ma'am.
So he retired from the army?
Yes, ma'am.
You also mentioned the memorandum of understanding between the Gambia and Nigeria in relation to NATAG.
NATAG. So the senior officers in the Gambian National Army, I believe, didn't have a clear picture of the role of the NATAC.
Have you ever seen that agreement, the memorandum?
No.
Do you know if NATAC stands for, well, the A in NATAC, does it relate to advisory or assistance group?
It was supposed to be Nigerian Army Training Assistant Group.
So at the time that these changes took place, you were in the UK receiving treatment?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you find out about this information while you were in the UK, or was it subsequently when you returned to the Gambia?
Subsequently, when I returned, I only found out what I found out, like I said, from Maba, when I went to meet him. And I remember he said to me, all of us are not for a single in a doubt that if you go back, you will have problem with these Nigerians.
Did he tell you why he thought that you would have problems with the Nigerians?
I believe it is because of the nature of who I was and how I operate as an RSM.
What do you mean by that?
Maybe with the little couple of weeks they work with the Nigerians, and knowing how I operate as an RSM, they thought that it will not, the two will not just complement each other.
How were you viewed as an RSM?
Will not tolerate injustice.
You told us, you've already mentioned that you're not very good with dates, and we've established how you came to learn a number of dates. In your statement, you mentioned that you sought medical treatment in 1992.
Yes, ma'am.
While you were in the UK, you told us that you spoke to Major Mabajob.
Yes.
Did you speak to anyone else from the Army in relation to events that were happening back home?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us about that?
At some point, I received a call from Warrant Officer Class 2, Jibril Sey, who told me that they had a guard of honor, and before the guard of honor, General Dada assembled them and told them that he was a soldier more than anyone in the Gambian National Army. No one can scare or intimidate him. That they received a letter and their intelligence was pointing the letter as if it was me who wrote it. And God knows, I didn't even know what was happening. And in that letter, Dada told them that the individual is describing himself as if someone who's got control, who got command and control over the men, that whatever he wants them to do, he can get it from them. And he, Dada, should be very, very, very careful because they're not accepted in the country. And then everyone was pointing fingers at me. I told him not to worry. Then they should go ahead and do whatever they're doing. I will sort out whatever I need to sort out when I come back.
Did he provide you with any other information about the contents of the letter in terms of the complaints that soldiers had at the time?
Not in detail, but from what he just told me, I understand exactly what it meant. Like, they were not, like whoever wrote that letter must have been a very disgruntled soldier or officer. Maybe trying to put a point across, but for whatever reason, put it in a way that the people who we knew each other, straight away start pointing finger at me. Because for me, whatever is not right, as an RSM in the camp, I will challenge it. I'll make sure it's right, regardless, at any level. Because I had the means and the authority to able to challenge anything in the camp as an RSM.
And if I understand your testimony correctly, the disgruntlement was in relation to the presence of the Nigerians in Gambia. Is that correct?
Whoever wrote that letter, that is what he was directing at.
Apart from yourself, there were other RSMs at that time.
Yes, ma'am.
You told us that you were the most senior RSM.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're saying that it's because of the fact that you were the most senior RSM that fingers started pointing towards you as the most likely person to write the letter?
I won't think it was because I was the most senior RSM. Maybe because my influence or the control I have, level of control I can have over the soldiers. Possibly that's why. Later in the testimony, I will elaborate why that letter was written.
So at the time, you were in the UK, and it's your testimony that you had nothing to do with that letter?
At all, nothing, absolutely.
Did you have any other conversations with any other soldiers while you were in the UK in relation to events back home?
No, ma'am.
Did you eventually come to know who wrote that letter?
Yes, ma'am. Subsequently, we found out that letter was wrote by one Captain Sonko, Captain Momodu Sonko. Why? I don't know.
How did you come to find out that it was Captain Momodu Sonko who wrote that letter?
From an insider.
Please elaborate. What do you mean by that?
After when the investigation was carried, it was later they found out that Captain Sonko wrote that letter, but addressed it as if it was me. But that letter was what set myself and the NATAC team apart.
Do you recall when you found out that it was supposedly it was Captain Momodu Sonko who wrote the letter? When did you find out about this?
When I came back.
So according to your statement, you returned to the Gambia in January 1993. Can you tell us about what happened upon your return?
When I returned back in January 1993, I was at home. And then I received a call that I had a letter at the Army headquarters. Went to pick the letter. Had never met any of the Nigerians. Went into the chief clerk's office, W2JA. In the army, if a group of soldiers are sitting and a senior officer or senior man happens to walk in, the most senior will greet him on behalf of the rest. So I walked in, Jack greeted me, we were there, he introduced me to the boys who were in his office. As we were into our conversation, one colonel walked down, came into the office, and Jack called my attention because I was the most senior in the office, but not in uniform. That's the acting army commander. Then I asked all of them to brace up and keep still. Because I was not in uniform, I asked Ja to salute. Ja salute. To my surprise, the acting army commander didn't respond. And then he walked around me, and then I asked them to stand down and relax. He went back up to his office. The phone rang, and he said to W2 Ja, who is that man standing there? Said to him, that's RSM Jeng. Within minutes, we had him coming down, came to the office. Oh, RSM, welcome back. I said, thank you, sir. When did you come back? A couple of days ago, etc., etc. And then he said to me, when you finish what you're doing, you can come and see me upstairs. But before you come, your future commander is in that office. You can come and meet him. Here, I want to make a correction, Council. Say he told me that there was a rumor back to say that I was going to be transferred to Farafenye. Say he was the first one to tell me.
Did he tell you why?
No.
Just clarify a couple of things before you continue. You mentioned that you met an acting commander. What's his name?
Colonel Akoji.
You also mentioned a future commander.
Yes.
What is his name?
At this time, I don't know his name. I will subsequently tell you when I know his name.
Can you tell us just so we know who you're referring to, and then you
Colonel
can...
Akoji told me to go and meet someone in that office that he's your future commander, whom later I found out that his name was Colonel Saliu.
Okay, so upon your return, your first interaction was with Colonel Akoji?
Yes, ma'am.
Acting commander?
Yes, ma'am.
Then he told you that you should go and meet your future commander?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was Colonel Saliu. Can you tell us about that?
I went to the door, knocked the door once, no one responded. Second time, no one responded. Third time, I knocked and opened the door and went in. Found a couple of them, about 6 of them sitting, having conversation. I looked at their peeps, and this most senior was Colonel Saliu. And I said, good afternoon, sir. He wouldn't respond. Good afternoon, sir. He wouldn't respond. The third time, I said, good afternoon, sir. I'm talking to you. His reply was, and who the hell do you think you are? And then I replied back and saying, and who the hell do you think you are, sir? If I didn't say sir, I'm offending him. I said sir. And there is this culture in the military, when people of ranks are having problems, no one would want to be a witness. We have a name for it, we call it pull head. So the people in the room they don't know who I was a mufti, they start leaving the room, one by one. So, he was very upset because I challenged him. He just got up and was going to the chief clerk, where we bumped on each other at the door. He went to the chief clerk to find out who I was. Chief clerk told him that that's RSM Jeng. He came back to me. To my surprise, just said, I've heard of you. And I said, then what? He went upstairs to the acting army commander to report me. I followed him. When we got to the acting army commander's office, he went through the procedure to be announced in. I waited until he was announced. I, as an RSM, I don't need to be announced. When he got in, commander had 2 doors. One, that's where the general public use. The other door, that's him and the clerk. Whenever that door is knocked, he has to stop whatever he is doing and attend to that person. That's the door I would share. So when he was announced, he went in. I went directly to that door and I knocked it. Commander said, come in. I went in. Because of the little altercation we had downstairs and using the stairs to go up, we were both breathing heavily. Commander looked at us and said, "What happened?" He said, "It's about RSM Jeng," and I said, "It's about this colonel." Commander asked, I explained, and then he asked him, "Why would you treat your RSM like that?" And then it was there, the first time I had his name. He asked him, "Colonel Salu, you have to apologize." He apologized, I accepted it, and then Commander asked me, okay, to excuse them, he will come back and talk to me. Went downstairs. After, when they finished, acting commander came down to introduce me to the rest of the NATAC officers who were at the army headquarters at the time. And then after he did the induction, this was where he said to me, "This is going to be your commander. You'll be joining him in Farafenye."
Who was he referring to? What was the name of the colonel?
Colonel Akoji, the acting commander, said to me, "This is Colonel Saliu, is your future commander. You will be joining him in Farafenye." And then I questioned, "Why Farafenye?" He said, "Why am I asking?" Everything changed. I said, "Because I'm the most senior RSM. What am I going to do with Farafenye? Why am I being sent to Farafenye?" He wouldn't give me any explanation, but didn't want me to question it. I said, "No, I have to. Because if anything, I should be in the headquarters. I need to know why I'm going to Farafenye." It didn't go down very well. It was then, after that, I left and went home. The following day, I was summoned to the headquarters. I went back to the headquarters, and I was told that we need to go to Minister of Defense. They wanted me to join them in their vehicles, but I went with my vehicle. They didn't like what happened when we got to State House, because the guards there know me, and when I came, they gave me somewhere to park, etc. And then we went in to the permanent secretary's office, who was Suleiman Bunjak. When we were in Mr. Jack's office, we had a heated argument there about going to Farafenye. I told Mr. Jack that I am the most senior Gambian RSM. I should be in the headquarters, not Farafenye. Because at Farafenye, we had a battalion, but it was a skeleton battalion, not up to a battalion. It could have either be Yundum, where RSM 5 was already there. Is that the headquarters are supposed to be. Why Farafenye? Mr. Jack was very worried. He couldn't come up with the answers. Later, all he could give me was, "Mr. Jeng, I want you to understand that when these people came, you people were vetted, especially those carrying ranks, and it was through their recommendation that I should be posted to Farafenye." I said, "No, that's not enough for me." And I can fully remember telling Mr. Jack that you people are doing something that if we are not careful of, tomorrow when it comes, it's going to be on our heads.
Why did you say that? What were you thinking at the time?
Being the most senior RSM, why would they be sending me to Farafenye? There must be something more to it than they were telling me at the time. And with my experience and knowledge, especially with the soldiers, why moving me away where I'm most needed for my duties? You sending me to Farafenye, you're exiling me. I will not know what is happening in the units, especially where we had a full battalion in Yundum. And they needed to be kept on their toes. Sending me for Farafenye was not enough for me. And it was during this exchange of high-tone argument that we had a knock on the door. When he said, come in, it was the Vice President and the Minister of Defense, who was Sehu Sabali. And as soon as he came in, he said to Mr. Jack, the noise is too much in your office. And then what happened next was, as soon as Mr. Bunjak said to him, it was RSM Jeng that they brought here. To my surprise, the Vice President went straight to the point. Mr. Jeng, I said, yes, sir. And he said, hope is not about going to Farafenye. I paused and said, yes, sir. He said to me, let's put it this way. You go to Farafenye. I'm on my way to UK, where you're just coming from. In a week or two's time, I'll be back, and then we'll get you here to discuss it and get down to the bottom of it. Very strange for me, but I have to accept it. And being our Vice President and Minister of Defense, I do not want to disagree with him in front of anybody else. I said, yes, sir.
You said that you were surprised by the fact that Mr. Sabali, as Minister of Defense, knew that you were to be sent to Farafenye.
Yes, ma'am.
Why was that surprising, considering his role?
Knowing that he is the Vice President, Minister of Defense, why would he bring himself down that low?
I would caution you, RSM, let's just focus on the facts of what happened and not be descriptive in terms of people's personalities. What I want to understand is, as Minister of Defense at the time, he knew that you would be deployed to Farafenye. Was that surprising that, considering his role, he would know that fact?
Very, 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 very surprising. Deployment of RSM would not have nothing absolutely to even do with Bunjak, who was the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Defense, much more the Vice President and the Minister of Defense. Very, very, very surprising.
Was the Ministry of Defense, did it take any part in relation to the promotion of soldiers, movement of key personnel from one location to another?
Yes, but not RSM.
So please continue with your testimony. He said that he was going to the UK, and when he comes back?
Yes, ma'am. Then I said, yes, sir. And then everything ended there. We left back to the Army headquarters. On reaching the Army headquarters, we were standing together again in a group. There was there, then the Army commander, acting Army commander, asked Colonel Sali, when I going back? I fully remember it was on a Tuesday. He said to him, I'm going back on Thursday. He can come and join me. We go together. And then I said to him, I'm not a foul to be just bundled and then taken to Farafenye. I need some time to prepare myself. We had a little bit of a disagreement there again. Acting commander intervened and then stopped us and then asked me, when do you think you can go back? At the time, I said, well, I will go on Friday. Then remember that I had no uniforms, etc. And then I put that across to the acting army commander. And then he said to me, unfortunately, we will not have vehicle to allocate to you. I asked to be given the fuel, and I will use my vehicle to go. They agree. And then I went home. On Wednesday, I was called to the Army headquarters, and then the acting Army commander got the quartermaster to start working on my uniforms, and it was on his instructions that I should stay till the following week when they completed the uniforms for me, etc. Now, I didn't go. It was their responsibility to inform Colonel Saliu that I was not coming as stipulated. On Friday morning, Monday morning, we do have what we call publication of Part 1 orders, where we put all information, like our news bulletin. So on this Part 1 order, there was a caption there from Colonel Saliu that RSM Jeng was on AWOL, that's absent without leave. When I was informed, I didn't say nothing because I know it was not going to go down well. And I was later told that the acting Army commander was not happy with that. He immediately got him to send another publication to amend that. That you will never publish your RSM that he's on AWOL. So after a week, when I got I was told that I should go, the uniforms will meet me in Farafenye. And then I left because they were not completed. I went to Farafenye. And when I got to Farafenye, soldiers whom I found there didn't know who I was because they were selected in my absence. So they asked me to sit under the tree, which I took. And which I did. I said, let me observe how the camp is being operated. I was under the tree there for almost about an hour before they went and get the sergeant to come and meet me. The sergeant came, he was worried. I said, no, don't worry, they were doing their duties. I asked him where Colonel Saliu is. I went with him to Colonel Saliu's office, where I found him sitting with Captain Abdoulaye Conte, Major Adamu. And then when I was coming, I fully remember saying in Wolof to Lai Conte, Gena Lensi, we started Nyunkodore Banjul, Filenko Jekale. And then I went, I saluted him.
Can you just translate that into English for us?
You people stay out of it. We started it in Banjul. This is where we're going to finish it.
What did you mean by that?
For Colonel Saliu, who have never seen me ever, for the first time he saw me, and then he started picking a fight with me. And the fact that even after the commander's intervention, he still chooses to go and publish me on absent without leave, I knew that there is more to it. There is more coming.
When you were sent to Farafenye, were you replaced as RSM of the army? Did someone replace you at the headquarters?
No, because it was one of the things I told them. Going to Farafenye, no one will be in the army headquarters. They said no one is going to be at the army headquarters because RSM Alajifai is at Yundum. But they had a Nigerian RSM who was at the army headquarters.
So this is still in 1993 when you went to Farafenye, because it was following your return from the UK. Did you eventually come back to either the army headquarters or Yundum?
Yes, ma'am. I was at Farafenye. After 2 weeks of the vice president's return, no one was said about my Farafenye, and then I made a request to see the army commander and possibly the vice president, who was our minister of defense, for the explanation I was waiting for. And before I got a response, I was told that under no circumstances should I leave Farafenye to come down to the greater Banjul area without permission from Army headquarters, which I found very strange.
Can you explain to us why you found it strange?
Even if private soldiers, lance corporal, corporals, sergeants, staff sergeants, and W2s can just get permission from their units and go as far as Banjul, why me? That really made me to make up my mind that I've got a fight with these Nigerians. Then I told Colonel Saliu, I asked permission of him, he wouldn't even discuss it. He wouldn't even discuss it. Before leaving Farafenye, I went to him and told him, I'm going to Army headquarters because I'm still looking for answers. I went down to Army headquarters, and then it was there I was told that then it was agreed that I, being the most senior RSM, should be posted to the training school in Farafenye. That they were going to organize refresher training for all ranks in the army, and because of my experience in the training wing, etc., that's where they think I will be best suited to be. I cannot disagree more. I accepted it, and they went back to Farafenye.
What led to you leaving Farafenye to go back to, well, to come back to the Greater Banjul area?
A lot happened in Farafenye, if I may explain, ma'am.
Please proceed.
Whilst I was in Farafenye, I tried to bring back proper regimentation and discipline in the camp, which I had no problem with. And I remember having a disagreement with Colonel Saliu in his office, and then next door, less than 2 meters, there was a gap, but that is where the 2BN commander was, who was Colonel Odunsi. At Farafenye, we have the training school and 2 battalion, but under different command.
So 2BN meaning second battalion?
Second battalion. I remember one of our disagreements, Colonel Odunsi came to him and said, I've had all your conversation, you and the RSM. I'm going to let the commander know. If you cannot work with him, I would like to have him in my battalion. And then, before my uniform came, Captain Abdullah Conte was the one who borrowed me a uniform, camouflage uniform, which I was using. After 3 days, I went to Colonel Saliu and said, Sir, what are you doing for my uniforms to be here? I cannot continue in the same uniform. It was then like Conte intervened and said he was going to give me another uniform. The fact that he just intervened and said he was going to give me a new uniform, I didn't want it to go any further. And that was it. He borrowed me another camouflage uniform, which I used for almost a week or more. Accommodation, I was not given accommodation because I asked Colonel Saliu, where is my accommodation? He could not say anything. We had a disagreement on that as well. Remember that day, he called the RSM, the Nigerian RSM in the camp, get him to go and prepare a room. They went and prepared the room. I came and I was instructed to go and see it. I went to visit the room, came back to him, and I told him that that's not where I should be as an RSM. And the room was within the corporals and sergeants. I said to him, that's not where I'm supposed to be. He said, what do I mean by that? I said to him, I am an RSM. RSM don't stay with his corporals or sergeant. And then I called upon all the sergeants in the camp at the time and asked of their living condition. And I was told that one of them was living within the corporals, which is very wrong. I hand him over those keys and told him that you've got the men with you. You have 2 hours to move your family in that room. If not, I will deal with you. I gave him the keys. He went and gathered his men, and they moved his family in that room. I went back to Colonel Saliu and told him that I've issued that room to the sergeant. That's where he's supposed to be, and not me. And then it was repeated the second time again. I moved W2 to the subsequent room I was given within the sergeants. He can live with the sergeant W2 because they're all senior NCOs, senior non-commissioned officers. I did repeat it, that exercise again. And then I went to him and told him that wherever your RSM is, that's where I should be. This is because we do this in the army for discipline. Corporal stays together, sergeants together, warrant officers together. That's how the army living conditions are. So, because there was no other accommodation, and then Major Adamu, who was in the training school, I remember, intervened and said, because he is traveling to Nigeria, I can use his apartment until he comes back. Hopefully before then, it will be sorted, accommodation will be sorted out for me. I said, no, I'm not a commissioned officer. I should not be there. And they said I should go to the commander's guest house, which was a no-go for me, because if commander or any of that his equivalent happens to pass by unexpectedly, I would have to leave that night and look for somewhere. I said to him, with the fuss you were making for me to come to Farafenye, then it seems that nothing was prepared for me. When Major Lai Conte, Captain Lai Conte at the time to intervene, I went and shared the accommodation with him. After 2 weeks, I came to Colonel Saliu and said to him, after I finish conducting detailed parade today, I will go back to headquarters and you will tell Commander why I went back. And then that was it. So it was when we were conducting the detailed parade, I saw 2 trucks coming from Yundum, yes. The lead driver was Sunkar Baju, I know we call him. He came, we were at the parade ground, he came, drove the 2 trucks round us, and then parked, and then came to me and said, sir, they said to bring these things for you. I said, no, go and report to Colonel Saliu. He took them, went to Colonel Saliu, and then handed him over. And then found out that he was called from headquarters and given instruction that wherever the Nigerian RSM is, I should be next to him.
He was given that instruction by who?
No, that instruction was given to Colonel Saliu from Army headquarters, I believe from the Army commander.
You told us that Colonel Akoji was the acting Army commander.
Army commander, yes, ma'am.
Who was the actual Army commander at the time?
It was Colonel General Dada.
Did that instruction come from General Dada?
Could be from General Dada, but I believe it's Akoji, not Dada.
So we understand that there were many problems between you and the Nigerian commanders, especially Commander Saliu in Farafenye. At some point, was Colonel Dada changed?
Sorry, ma'am. Yeah. Yeah, before we get to Colonel Dada's change, we were in Farafenye, conducted a couple of series of training. And I remember either the second to the last one or the last one, General Dada was invited because we had it was supposed to be a fieldcraft exercise, bush training. And when he came, when we were ready to go out for exercise, soldiers were gathered waiting for their arms and blank ammo that we were going to use to be issued to them. I went to find out where the armory key was, and it was not there. I started asking questions. No one could tell me where it was. And that really made me go furious to find out where the key was and who took it. Because when to the book, no one signed for it. But later, one of the Nigerian senior NCOs came with the key. I asked him why did he took the key and who authorized him to take the key without signing it. He could not give me any explanation. Just because of that, I said, I'm not going into the armory because I don't know what happened in there. Until when Major Adamu came, and then we all went in. When we went into the armory, I saw something very strange. I found empty boxes of live ammunition littered on the floor. I wanted to know why and who was in there. No one would give me any explanation. And because it was getting late for us to go out for the exercise, I just took the blank ammo we need, which I was supposed to be controlled while the exercise progresses, and then did something very unusual. I told the soldiers that normally you will just issue them out with what they need for each exercise. I told them instead, I'm going to issue out everything in the camp before we leave. And they will have to control what they use as the exercise progresses. They asked me, why am I doing that? I said, no one should ask me that question. I'm responsible. That was done. We left for the exercise area. When we got there, troops moved out. I set up the headquarters. It was supposed to be one, but I didn't want it to go anywhere near the Nigerians. Because for me, I started sensing that something is happening. I picked out a tent, that's where we were, for the headquarters. Until at night, I was supposed to go back to the camp to bring the dinner, and then the few things we needed, which we left behind. When I called for the driver, he came, and one or two people to go and get the dinner. As the driver started moving, about 50 to 75 meters in front of us, we were stopped by one Sergeant Garba. He's a Nigerian. I said to him, where are you going? He said he wants to pick something for General Dada at the camp. I said, okay, jump in. Went to the camp, collected the dinner, collect all that I wanted to collect. He never dropped to pick or collect anything. When we left the camp, to the Farafenye main Johnson, turn left, going towards the mosque. That's where Eddie's is, Eddie's nightclub. He said, sir, can I go and buy some drinks for the commander? I said, what drinks? He said, beer and Guinness. I said to him, do you people take alcohol out for your exercise areas? He said, that's what the commander wants. I said, okay. He went into Eddie's came back empty-handed. I asked him why. He said they wouldn't allow him to take their bottles without guarantee. I went in because I knew the people there, and then be the guarantor, we left. Just before we...
Just a quick question. Did this take place in 1993 or 1994? Are we still in 93 or?
93, going, yeah, 93. It was the end of 93.
Okay. Can we go through this quickly because I have a lot of questions to ask you in relation to the subsequent events?
When we were just about to leave Farafenye, behind the mosque, heading to Belingo, that's where we were having the exercise, he said to me, "Sir, can I talk to you?" I said, "Okay," but he wanted us to go down. When we came down, we went back of the Land Rover. He said to me, "Sir, something is happening I want to call your attention to." I said, "What's that?" He said to me, "We've been working with you, we know you, but just be more careful." I said, "Why?" He took out his magazine from the AK-47 and showed me the chamber, and live round was already engaged in the chamber, and the magazine contains 30 ammunition. It was all live. I asked him, "Why do you have this out here?" He said, "It's two of them, him and Sergeant Injitita, who was asked to keep an eye on me, that I may decide or choose to do anything to General Dada."
Did they tell you who asked them to keep an eye on you?
Well, must be from the commander. But they were instructed, given life round. Why? When we go to exercise, no one takes life round. Why do they choose to take that? This clear this thing as to why the Amorikis was taking. So I said to him, "Do you know what? Carry out your duties as they were given to you, your orders as they are given to you. And let no one knows that you spoke to me." We went to the bush. The boys came for their dinner and then left to continue their exercises. Round about 10, 11 at night, there was this soldier called Marong, had an ankle problem. It was even swollen. Was supposed to be with me in the tent. But I said to him, "Marong, can you do me a favor? I know you're in pain, but can you go back to your platoon and stay there with them until tomorrow? I will take you to the camp." He said to me, "No problem, sir." "Yes, sir." He went. I didn't want anybody to stay with me in the tent. I was in the tent till around about 1, 2 in the morning, almost fall asleep, and then Captain Laikonte came and then just kicked me. I jump up. He said, "People are in the bush doing all sort of things, and you're here being guarded. What's happening?" I said to him, "What are you talking about?" And then I said to him, "Hold on." I went out as if I was going to wee, and then this sergeant jumped, who was this time Injitita on one side of the tent, Sergeant Garba the other side of the tent. I went back into the tent. I then explained to Laikonte what happened, and then told him that this is why I don't want anybody in the tent. If I had my way, you will not be here. I was supposed to go back to the camp round about 4 or 5 to pick the breakfast for the soldiers, ready for the dawn attack, but I choose not to go out of the tent. Stay in the tent until the sun was right out there. Everybody see that if I should walk out, and everybody will see me. The soldiers didn't have their breakfast in time that day. I did that for my own safety, because here now I suspected that something is happening, I don't know. Then I choose to do that.
So at some point you left Farafenye and came back to Greater Banjul area. Can you tell us how that happened?
It was after this incident. Again, sorry, just one quick explanation here. When we went back to the camp, General Dada, for whatsoever reason, they wanted to entertain him. They came to me to borrow them videotapes, because I was just coming from UK. I had a lot of tapes that I was borrowing soldiers. The sergeant they sent, I was sitting under the tree. I said to him, go inside and pick whatever you want. He went and found a tape, which was a documentary. 1 in every 5 female prisoners in Holloway, UK, was a Nigerian. I didn't tell him what it was about. He chose it, took it. When they play it, straight away, Colonel Saliu sent Major Adamu to come to me and say, why did I choose to give them that videotape? I was very mad. It was until after, when I explained to Major Adamu what happened, he went and called the sergeant. The sergeant said, no, I didn't give it to him. He went and chose it. I just directed him where it was. Now, continue in Farafenye. At some point in 1994, early 1994, I was in Farafenye doing my normal duties, and then Colonel Saliu sent for me. I came back to answer to him, and I found the phone was already on the table, off the hook. And he said to me, that's your call. I picked the call. Someone at the other end said, is the RSM Jeng? I said, yes, sir. He introduced himself as, I am Colonel Lawan Gwadebe, the new army commander. What are you doing in Farafenye? I said, I don't know, sir. He said to me, I choose you to be my RSM, and I want you to report the army headquarters immediately. I shouted to the top of my voice, yes, sir, and then put the phone down. Went out of the office and then went back in and asked permission to use the phone. Saliu said, okay. I called back and asked him if he can give me a week or a couple of days so that I could do proper handing over in Farafenye before coming down. He said, take your time. If you need vehicle, let me know. I'll send you my vehicle. That was how I did everything in Farafenye. The soldiers did a center for me, the people from the town, etc., etc. And then later, that was how I came down to the headquarters.
So in 1994, you had a new colonel, Gwadebe, who took over command of the army. Where was General Dada?
At this point, General Dada's tour of duty finishes, and his country needed him to go back, and he chose not to go back and stayed in the country.
Did that create any difficulties in relation to command of the Gambia National Army?
100%.
Please explain it to us.
For the simple fact that he is a general, and the original NATAG that was in the country, they were under his command. They had more loyalty to him than the newly commander that came, because he was recalled to go back. He didn't. He stayed in the country, and these guys were in touch with him. Whatever they're doing, whatever they doing, they contact Dada. Gwadebe came to the country. No one went to receive him at the airport. He found his way to either Senegambia or Kairaba and checked in himself there. And he was very, very, very furious about that. Dada's presence in the country, I don't know if it will be right now for me to say, is what led us to be where we are today, why we are here today.
We will come back to that particular point. Right now, I would like to fast forward a bit to we are in 1994, and at some point there were rumors of coup d'etat in the Gambia. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us what you know about those rumors?
They were in different categories. One, we had a group of senior officers who were very reckless and selfish at times in the conversation they choose to have in bars and nightclubs after getting drunk, bragging, using language that would lead to people saying there is coup. I remember I had numerous visits at the camp by the then army commander, who was Colonel Mamadou Ndaw Njie, trying to find out what is happening because his attention was called as to whether there is a rumor of coup or not. I will go with him to the camp. He will see and confirm for himself that there is nothing of that sort happening.
This was during Colonel Ndaw Njie's tenure as
Yeah, this was
commander
during
of
Colonel Ndaw Njie's tenure.
Okay.
This rumor of coup was, we were always with it. And that was not only from the army, across from the army, Zandam as well.
Can you tell us about the rumors of coup upon your return from Farafenni?
Yes. This particular one, I was at the army headquarters, hardly come to contact with the NATAC officers who were there because Guadebe was the one who summoned me to come down, and I was waiting for him to take over office for us to get on with business. One time, I saw a corporal called Kopul Mudfal Jame, who would walk into the army headquarters and went straight up to the intelligence commander's office. And then a little bit later, the former director of NSS, Keba Sise, he's late now, will walk in, go through the normal signing in, and then go in to join the officer there.
At the time, he was still director of
NSS. Yes, ma'am.
Please continue.
After a couple of visits, I went to the guard room and said to the duty sergeant, who was Sergeant Faraba Sabali, that if that couple comes here again without passing through my office, I'm going to deal with you. The following day...
Just a point of clarification. You mentioned that Modufa Jame would walk in and see the intelligence officer.
Yes.
What was the name of the intelligence officer?
Major Maman.
Please continue.
And the following day, Mulfal Jame came, and then Sergeant Sabali stopped him and asked him where was he going to. He said he was going to see Major Maman. Said to him, are you going to pass by RSM's office? He said, no, I was told not to speak to the RSM. Faraba Sabali ordered him to go in. And then he was detained in the cells there in the guard room. After 2 hours, he told Faraba Sabali to bring him to me for explanation. He came. I said to him, what are you doing in the army headquarters when you're supposed to be the camp with your unit? He said he was told not to speak to me. And I say, by who? He said, by the acting army commander and Major Maman.
What is Major Maman's nationality?
Nigerian.
You mentioned that Mofa Jame was from a particular unit. Which
He
unit?
was from the engineering squadron.
Please continue.
And then I asked him what was his mission coming in and out. He was the one who told me that he was accused of leaking a coup plot in somewhere in Birkama, that he was sitting within a group of women, and he told them that if the head of state, the former head of state, His Excellency Sadauda, is coming, the soldiers are going to effect a coup at the airport, and they may even shut the plane down before landing. That was very surprising for me to hear, and I asked him, did you say it? He said, no, I repeated it for 3 times. I said to him, they said, if your hands put you in trouble, your mouth can bail you out. But if your mouth puts you in trouble, you have to cut your neck off. Did you say it? He said, no. Then I said to him, from today, I don't want to see you here. Go and stay at the camp with your unit. Leave the camp. He went back.
Do you recall when this took place? How close was it to the events of 22nd July 1994? Was it a matter of weeks, days, or months, to your recollection?
Months.
Okay.
I was about 2 months. So, I went upstairs to meet Major Maman to find out what was going on for them be dealing with a corporal, and I, as the RSM, would not know. His reply was, he doesn't know, I should be very careful. Sorry, before I went, Major Maman came down to my office to find out if the couple was there, because this time Kebasisi has already walked in. I told him that I sent him back to the camp. It was in my office where he said to me, you have to be very careful. He went up, I went and followed him. The acting army commander came, we were there with Kebasisi. And I started questioning why would an investigation be taking place that I would not know or be part of. If anything, I know these men more than them. And an accusation of that magnitude, I should be involved to support it. And I was told to be very careful.
So
it's
just
not
to
my
make,
business. I should be very careful.
Just to be clear, at this meeting it was yourself, Major Maman,
Keba Sise
of NSS,
and Colonel Akoji.
And Colonel Akoji. Okay.
Then I went back to my office, and that was the last time that kind of meeting took place at the headquarters with Mulfal Jame coming down.
At the time that Colonel Akoji was in that meeting, basically acting commander, where was General Dada and where was General Guadebe? Were they in the country?
This time, General Dada was not coming into work because he was already relieved. He was at home. Guadebe was in town but haven't resumed office yet.
So essentially there was a vacuum and Colonel Akoji was acting.
I think the reason why Colonel Guadebe didn't take over office was they were trying to settle it out at government levels rather than having to. Definitely Dada was interfering. And for him, he has to step aside to get them to sort it out.
How do you know that Dada was interfering?
He was talking to the people who were running the army at the time, and the Minister of Defense.
And you were present at the army headquarters during that time?
Yes, I was in the army headquarters.
So after this particular...
This happened just about a week. Within a week, or the second week, I remember Colonel Guadebe came, and then we had a meeting, myself and him, lengthy meeting, discussed a lot. His aims, what he wants to do. And then it was there we agreed that we'll start with tour of all the units.
At that point, did you make Colonel Guadebe aware of what was happening, or do you know if he was aware of the rumors that were circulating?
No. We didn't get to that.
Okay.
And then I remember when we went round to tour the barracks, we went to Yundum barracks. After touring the camp, we had about 6 40-foot containers sitting outside there, which were all of them were contained support weapons, explosives, and uniforms. It was a gift we got from China. And at the same time, armories were already built for the weapons to be moved in, but whatsoever reason, they left them still in the containers. Now, remember Colonel Guadebe asked the question, what is in these containers? And everybody kept quiet. He asked the second time, I told him that, sir, we had support weapons and explosives and uniforms in those containers. He was furious. Why would those be left in a container sitting there? And asked if we don't have any facilities to put them in. I found the armories, and that says there are new armories, that's where they're supposed to be. And he was very mad. He turned around to the Nigerian senior officers and said, and you people call yourself professionals, and you allow these things to happen. And he said to me, RSM, I'm going back to make my final report. Before I'm back, all these things supposed to be moved in there. You take my vehicle, come here and see if it's been done, and let me know on my return.
Was that done? Were the weapons and ammunition put in the armory?
They were moved, but very slowly.
Prior to 22nd of July 1994, were they put in the armories?
Not all of them were put into the armories before 22nd July 1990.
Where were the rest of the weapons? Were they still in the container or
some in
elsewhere?
the container, some already been moved to the armories.
This is a good time to stop, where we will move on to the events of 21st July when we come back after the break. Mr. Chairman, I cede the floor to the commissioners for further questions.
Thank you very much, Council, and thank you, Mr. Jang. I have a very short, quick question. Earlier in your testimony, you made reference to Memorandum of Understanding between the government of the Gambia and the government of Nigeria.
Yes, sir.
And the Council asked them if you had seen a copy of that memorandum. Your answer escaped me. Can you please just remind me, did you see a copy of it? Is there a copy that exists somewhere?
No, sir, I didn't see it, because for such a level of communication or document, it will be at the command level. Possibly the Army Commander or Minister of Defense would only be in the position for such.
Thank you very much.
What I was trying to say there is, as the Gambian side was concerned, maybe, which I believe caused a lot of friction, is proper explanation was not given to our officers as to the NATAC role. It was not defined for them properly, their role in the country, which later we found out that it caused a lot of problems.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Kinte.
Commissioner Kinte.
Yes, sir.
RSM, I remember you said the first mutiny was a result of delay in the payment of allowances to soldiers who went to Liberia. And a similar thing happened not long after. Do you think, why do you think the soldiers wouldn't have, upon return, after serving so many months in that hard condition, not have their allowances paid to them? And indeed, when they only peacefully went out to express their dissatisfaction and disgruntledness, only to be sent out and dismissed from the service. Don't you think all of this and the narratives we are finding cumulatively may not have been the background of the popularity of the coup among the men?
Yes, sir. What happened is, as far as the military is concerned, we have chain of command that we should follow for whatsoever happens. If there is any grievance, any dissatisfaction, there is a way to channel it. We cannot break that protocol. And soldiers knows that. But the problem we have is, this is an army that's been run by civilians who doesn't know how the military operates. For sending soldiers to a battlefield, you would have expected them to even get their salaries or all allowances before they come back. Or when they come back, whatever is delaying it should have been communicated properly to them, but that didn't happen.
Do I come in, please?
Yes.
What you're saying is the lack of professionalism at the level of the hierarchy, particularly like the Minister of Defense has never had any military experience.
Yes.
The Permanent Secretary neither had any military experience.
Yes.
And maybe there are a number of them along the lineup who were lay people as far as security and military service is concerned. So that was a wrong way of managing the defense ministry. Is that what you suggest?
Exactly, sir.
Okay.
Government could have got help after, I believe, personally, when Colonel Ndaunjai was relieved, rather than sending him for diplomatic mission, this country could have used him as the Minister of Defense, as the Chief of Staff, whatever, to help guide them, the establishment of the army and how to put things in place. But that didn't happen.
Thank you. Mr. Yang, you're not suggesting that ministers of defense anywhere must be from a military background?
Not necessarily. Oh, sorry, sir. Yeah. Not necessarily, but it is very important for him to have a military background. And one of the things we are suffering here in this country up to now is the army is being micromanaged by civilians who have no idea, no clues as to how the army should be. And up to now, the same mistakes are being made and repeated.
Thank you. Commissioner Carr?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Carr, I would like to know what your assessment of the conditions of service in the Army at that time were.
Not perfect, but were accepted by soldiers, and we were managing because I know the morale of soldiers at the time was very high. Like the food, you people must have had the water chew already, but it became one of our favorite diets that soldiers, when they go out, they will get their colleagues to make sure they receive their food in their absence. The living conditions was not perfect, but we accepted it that we as soldiers, we have to. I can give an example. Remember, one time His Excellency was invited to come to the camp to see our living conditions. He came with a very big delegation, and I remember in each ministry, director or permanent secretary was part of that delegation. And then 2 days before the visit, I was instructed to go to Fajara Barracks and then borrow extra mattresses, blankets, etc., to cover the visit, which I say, yes, sir. But later instruct all my sergeant majors to make sure our daily routine of cleaning the camp, maintaining cleanliness, etc., was carried out. And then the rest, they should leave it with me. Until 24 hours before the visit, Commander called me and said, have you gone to get those extra things we requested for? I said, not yet, sir, but I will go. He left it at that. Until the very day of the visit, Sadauda came, we did the quarter guard, went to the commander's office. Before he started the inspection, he was briefed, came out to do the camp inspection. I remember we started at the guard room. I make sure what was in the guard room, everything is clean and tidy, and then for him to see for himself exactly what was there. And that's what I did. I could see my commander was very, 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 very fuming at the time that his instructions were not carried. It was carried, but differently. So, they asked about the missing mattresses also. I explained why. And then we start moving. Went to the armory, visited the armory. I told them about the condition and state of the arms. That was before we have the containers. That we didn't have enough serviceable arms to meet all the soldiers, so in case we had an emergency also. And then from there, we went, as we were proceeding inside the camp, we saw a bull that was crossing the camp. They asked why. Then I said, I waited because when we were moving next to the toilet. We went to the toilet. We had only 1 or 2 toilets and 1 shower at the time. Then I told them that this is why they saw the pool passing through, because the soldiers have to open the fence. That was why after we placed a sentry there, whenever they need to ease themselves, they pass through the fence to the bushes. We went round to the dormitories where they saw them for themselves. Some of the soldiers, I was very lucky to have some of the soldiers coming back from exercise. They were lying on bare spring, some of them on the floor, on their blankets. And that I give explanation. By the time we went to the cookhouse, it was lunchtime. Some of the soldiers were eating, but in this big tomato paste tin. That's where they're having their lunch. Not enough medicines. So when we got round, finished the inspection, Sir Dauda, everyone could notice him was not happy at all. Remember, there was a lunch organized for him at the officers' mess. He said no, he will not have that lunch. And he was asking a lot of questions. And then remember, after that visit, I was summoned to the office by the commander, and then the British Army training team were there. I went, and he wanted explanation. I told him that, sir, if I was to go to Bakau and borrow those things, and Sadauda came, he will never know our problems. And I did it for them to know that this is the condition, the situation we are in, so that our problems could be solved. The British commander shook my hand, British Army training team commander shook my hand, and said to him, he's saving you. I remember immediately after that, $6 million was awarded for the rehabilitation and refurbishment of the camp to improve conditions. This is where we have problems. Only, I believe, 1/3 of the money was released. Was only one dormitory that was refurbished, and then we choose to make it the QRF, Quick Reaction Force, QRF, so that soldiers on standby would use it. We had a TV, etc., for them there. The rest of the money never came, refurbishment never took place. Hope that gives you the answer, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Jain. Any questions? If none, we will take a 1-hour break and come back at 2:40 later on. Thank you all very much. My meeting is adjourned.
Fear over electoral rigging rocks Zimbabwe as the country.
Yesterday, after listening to Prime Minister May's assessment of the state of the negotiations,
Why it is our diocesan patron feast day is because the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Assumption is dedicated.
Do not have it in their mindset or in their psyche that we are playing against Algeria.
Febar kumay faj dawal doctor mingi naaj l'hôpital Dantec l'hôpital